words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts always be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. I wonder how many of you would admit to having some idols in your life. I'm not sure I'd want to tell you if I had idols. In fact, I'm not really even sure that I know how to identify what idols I might have. I'm a bit uncertain as how to identify an idol because when I read about them in the Bible, they're usually carved or formed images made out of wood or metals or precious jewels. You can think of the golden calf with Moses in Exodus, or the statues that were worshipped in Ephesus and Athens, or the idol found in today's Corinthian reading. And we don't know what the idol looks like, but food is left for this idol. And so the whole concept of idols seems somewhat ridiculous to me because certainly rational people that we are in today's world, we wouldn't fall for idols and think they have that much power or significance. It might be easy then for us to dismiss the Corinthians reading as a unique problem from the ancient past. But I don't find myself going there anymore, for I realize that I've been seeing a form of idol worship rip apart families and our government, our democratic hopes, and our churches. I realize that for us, the term idol might be outdated, but the power of ideologies is not. You're going to hear in the word ideology, you hear idol in there. An ideology is a collection of ideas or beliefs that are shared by a group, and it helps explain the world, and it gives that group or us an identity. An ideology generally is systematic. It ties together so that one's opinions and the way you live come forth from the guidance of your ideology. Now, I believe holding strong opinions and subsequent actions because of an ideology becomes our form of idol worship today. And it's probably more damning and troublesome than bread that's been eaten in the temple. Thing is, we all live with ideologies. We all take teachings we receive from our families and from the schools we attend and from our friends and from our church and civic associations, and we fit them together to become part of the story of how we fit into the world. So an ideology needn't be a negative in our life. In fact, we all need beliefs and opinions that guide our decision making. John Calvin himself is quoted as saying the human heart is relentlessly efficient at producing idols. Idols, ideas, they inspire us, they form us, they can strengthen us. So I'm not here to criticize if your guiding ideology today is that you are an evangelical Christian or a liberal or a progressive voter or a fiscal conservative, an anti-immigration advocate, an equal rights amendment proponent. All of these identities are elements of a warp and weave that create the tapestry of this society. So these identities become part of a story that we all tell ourselves to explain how we make sense of the world we live in. And you notice that Paul, in his letter to the Corinthians, he's not telling the people to destroy the idols. Rather, what he's doing is warning people to note how these idols or these ideologies impact us when we're in community with others. It is that element of idol worship that has been getting my attention these past few years. After the election of Donald Trump as president of the United States 4 years ago, it was with sorrow that I observed highly emotional reactions within our church community that split people apart, that harmed longtime friendships, that pulled folks into camps in which they identified where they belonged. And this brought me great sorrow and uncertainty of how to respond pastorally to people upset on both sides of the political aisle. Such high emotions. And one evening, as I did the lectionary readings for the day, we were in the book of Jonah, and I read this line: "Those who worship vain idols forsake their true loyalty." And that was the answer. True loyalty. I wanted to go out and start a true loyalty movement. In fact, I still do. For repeatedly, I feel like if I can ask someone where their true loyalty lies, hopefully they'll come back to a more solid foundation in the midst of their distress. Here's an example. I have a family member who's currently distraught that he has lost his daughters, in his words, because they are going liberal on him. And so if I had an opportunity to talk to him about where his true loyalty rested, then perhaps he could ground himself in the importance of loving his children and keeping his family together in mutual relationship. Regrounding ourselves in something that is strong and enduring. You see, what Paul is warning us about is taking our ideological identity and deciding that we are right, that this identity has a capital R in it for right way to understand life. And that is using our knowledge to puff ourselves up. But knowledge must not be used to destroy or tear down others. I think we must be careful that the personal freedoms we have to follow our own paths aren't used to harm others. The attitude of, I've got it right and you don't, will only separate people into alienating vanities. And all of that pulls us away from realizing our shared identity as part of the human family. Every person, all of creation, stands in need of profound fellowship, understanding, and love. And a first step towards love is the common sharing of a sense of mutual worth and value. Our true loyalty is to a God that loves each of us fully, equally, and deeply. You see, there's no other loyalty that allows us to live in peace with steadfastness and patience. There's no other loyalty that furthers the building up of God's kingdom and of living as Christ's disciples. We're still going to be guided by the voices of our families and our friends, our co-workers, our political representatives. But we must never worship the ideologies that we follow. We must never dismiss another who disagrees with us as weak or an enemy. Rather, like Paul asks us, we need to bend to supporting each other in order for both parties to grow in understanding. And so this week, for my own creativity, I have rewritten Paul's writing in 1 Corinthians 8, the reading we've had for in today's lessons. And I rewrote it in words for us today. So here it is, 1 Corinthians 8, 1 through 13. Now, concerning personal values sacrificed because of an ideology, we know that all of us possess ideas and beliefs. Those identities puff us up, make us feel important. But love builds up us and others. Anyone who claims to know the right way to live does not yet have the deep truth. But anyone who focuses on loving God is known by God. Hence, as to the clinging of certain beliefs and values offered by an ideology, we know there is no ideology in the world that really explains the whole truth, and that there is no truth with a capital T, but God's truth. Indeed, even though there may be many sound ideologies and philosophies here on earth, as in fact there are many teachings and many beliefs, yet for us there is one truth, one God, from whom are all things and for whom we exist, and one Lord, Jesus Christ, through whom are all true teachings and through whom we exist. It is not everyone, however, who thinks as we do. Some have become so accustomed to their personal freedoms and to having their own values, they still think that their stories or beliefs are the right ones. The problem is that following one certain ideology does not make us better than or worse than each of our neighbors, especially if they are different than us. For no certain teaching or movement or philosophy contains the whole truth. So be careful that our individual freedoms to believe as we wish does not somehow alienate us from each other. For if others who know you and hear you promoting a certain ideology or carelessly using your freedom, they might listen and follow you without their own understanding, and then they'd be encouraged to sacrifice or never even learn their own identities and values. So by your firmly held beliefs, those uncertain neighbors miss learning the truth of God's love and where their true loyalty should lie. But when your behaviors thus mislead members of your family and community and wound their spirits when they are uncertain, you behave against Christ. Therefore, if one's firmly held beliefs are a cause of others being injured and misled, I will never hold strongly to any ideology so that I may not cause someone harm or to wander from growing in truth. Let's keep our hearts and our minds focused on our true loyalty and not vain idols. Thanks be to God.